Welcome to the Betting Above the Rim podcast. Today's date, November 18th, episode 97. In today's podcast, we're getting to 5 topics. With the NBA Cup having games on Tuesday night, we will preview 3 big games, including the Cavaliers still sitting undefeated at 15-0, heading to Beantown to take on the defending champion Boston Celtics. Along, we'll talk about Denver versus Memphis, and then Oklahoma City versus the Spurs. Next, we head to the college game. 2 big matchups coming up in the next couple of days. First, we'll talk about Purdue taking on Marquette and Shaka Smart, and then a sneaky good matchup with Illinois and Brad Underwood taking on Nate Oates and Alabama now after Alabama has lost last week. Next, last year we had DJ Burns, and now we got a new story. I'm going to talk about what I've seen out of Marcus Johnson out of Bowling Green, who has gotten off to a hot start so far this year. Next, we'll head to the women's game, and we'll look at the WNBA. Now that the draft lottery has been decided with the Dallas Wings, we'll have the number 1 pick, which is the loss for the Los Angeles Sparks. I will give you my top 5 right now based off of where the lottery sat, even though I think there could be a little bit more discussions about number 1 and number 2. Lastly, Geno Aureiamma, the greatest women's basketball coach in history, and you could say maybe the greatest, if not the greatest, basketball coach in history in regard to the college game, is going to break Tara Vanderveer's record for Division I wins, men or women, on Wednesday night versus Fairleigh Dickinson. I will kind of give you my thoughts on what Geno has meant to college basketball. Let's start in the NBA with 3 big matchups on Tuesday night. Let's first talk about the Cavaliers versus the Celtics. The Cavs have been playing such phenomenal basketball. I mean, I feel like I'm like Nostradamus. Like I predicted this a while ago when I told everyone that I thought that this was going to be a really big year for Kenny Atkinson in year 1. But folks, it's gone better than that. And what we've talked about a couple of times on this network and on this podcast particularly is my thought about how they're playing, right? The fact that it's not just Donovan Mitchell getting you 30, 35 points and not to win. What you're seeing out of Cleveland is a team that's in sharing the role, the responsibility offensively, right? Collectively, what are they doing? I think it's really been fascinating to watch the evolution of Donovan Mitchell, right? Someone that used to, like I said, used to be a shot, used to just get shots up any way he can, to a Donovan Mitchell that I feel is playing more composed and within himself, getting at 24.6 points per game. And I think it's really a big thing with Spider. Obviously, and looking at him, he's got to remember, folks, he's shooting 42.1% from 3. His career average is 36.8. Okay? That's a big jump for Spider. So I think he's playing really good basketball, and he's also turning the ball over less because he's relying on others. We can keep going. Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, Karis LeVert off the bench. Ty Jerome's getting them good minutes at 10.7 points per game. Georges Niang, Merrill, Okoro, Wade, they hit you in waves, and they really smother you defensively. But now comes the test of all tests, and that's Boston. And that's Boston on the road. And I think that's the key thing here. So although you look at Cleveland's schedule, 2 wins versus Milwaukee, they've been flat out terrible. They beat Philadelphia by 8. Got to remember, no Embiid, no PG-13, right? You know, they beat the Knicks in a game where they just kind of beat them up down the stretch. It took them in the fourth quarter. I mean, the 2 big wins you would look at is the win versus the Lakers and the win versus the Warriors. They were at home. They're going on the road to Boston, and I think this is going to be a big spot. This will tell me a lot about where Cleveland really is if they can go into Boston and win. Now, listen, people don't go in Boston and win. Now, Golden State did it, but they still have, 4 guys getting you at least 15.5 points per game, including Peyton Pritchard's been outstanding at 15.5. Should be the 6th man of the year right now if you ended it today. And they're getting good play out of all of their stars. So it'll be interesting to see what takes place here Right now, I'll obviously give my picks tomorrow in regards to props. Right now, I'm leaning Boston on the money line. I do believe last time I saw it, it's 2.5. So if it's 2.5 or less, Boston money line. If it's more than 3.5, I may go the other way. But I do like Boston to give Cleveland their first loss. Next, Denver versus Memphis, and a Denver team that has been, that's been hurt by the injury bug. Obviously we talked about the loss of not having Aaron Gordon, right? We can look at the fact that Nikola Jokic, who right now is the MVP, like unanimously, getting you about 30, 13.7, 11.7. Well, the Jokers missed their last 2 games. They've lost their last 2. So this becomes an interesting spot because we got to see if we do get the Joker here in this spot versus a Memphis team that, folks, I told you before the year I was extremely high on. I thought that this team was going to be much better, simply put, because they're healthy, and I think that speaks to an important part of what's going on. I mean, what you see, obviously, and Ja obviously only playing, in 8 games and missing the last couple of weeks has been tough. But, you can look at the play of Jaren Jackson Jr. has been really, really good at 23.1 points per game. He's been good. Desmond Bane, I'm sorry, and then Bane's been hurt too. So they've been hit by the injury bug. But to me, it's been the play of Jaren Jackson Jr. It's been the play of Scottie Pippen Jr. And Zach Edey is slowly but surely starting to come around. He's got double-digit games in 4 of his last 5 games. He only played 14 minutes in the game versus Denver that they won by 15. This is why you're getting a better Jaren Jackson Jr. because he's got Zach Edey to protect him. And you have to look at Jaren Jackson Jr. His best games or his best years of his career was next to Steven Adams, who can take care of the big burly bigs, that can allow Jaren Jackson Jr. to kind of roam and rotate and rebound and do all what he has to do. Now listen, at the end of the day, Jaren Jackson Jr. has got to get more than 5.7 rebounds. He's got to get more than 1.4 blocks. I would love him to be at about 8 rebounds and about 2 blocks a game. But offensively, he's been the best he's been in his career. They got to get Moran healthy. They got to get Bane healthy. But this would be an intriguing matchup as 2 teams that are both dealing with the injury bug. Third game, San Antonio versus New Orleans. Oklahoma City. When you look at this matchup for tomorrow night, what you have to start to look at is how Oklahoma City is starting to play. Obviously without having Chet, without having Hartenstein yet. They first were putting up a lot of points. Now they've kind of dialed it back defensively. You only give 83 points to the Suns without KD. They lost 121-119 to Dallas. It'll be interesting to see how it goes off. And then when you look at Big Boy, when you look at Wemby, and here's one thing you have to remember, folks, is you have Wemby, who got off to, I think, a slow start offensively, right? But he, had a 50-point game last week. And he's starting to show what he can do. 22.7 points per game, 10.5 rebounds. You can talk about the play of Chris Paul, who has really been a really good spot for them, as a wily veteran. And the thought process of them, because they lost Devin Vassell, is putting Chris Paul and putting the rookie with him in the backcourt in Stephon Castle, who's up to 9.9 points per game, 3.1 assists. So that 2-guard backcourt's been pretty good for the San Antonio Spurs. Obviously, we know about what's going on with Pop. We talked about with him having a mini stroke. We need Pop back, but that's something to watch out for. That's going to be a sneaky good matchup here. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take the Spurs plus the points. I think they'll find a way to kind of stay in the mix. I think the rim protection of Wemby is going to be something they can't deal with, and I think also they're going to have a tough time guarding him. Let's head over to the college game really quickly. 2 big games. Purdue versus Marquette. Purdue obviously just got the win over Alabama over the weekend. Obviously it's been the play of both, Braden Smith and Lawyer in their backcourt, but you really can't discount the play of Kaufman Red. This is a guy that kind of took a back seat for Zach Edey. And I think this is going to be a really fun contest here, but when you look on the other side, you got to look at, the play of Cam Jones, who now without Tyler Kolek is now become the premier facilitator and ball handler, getting you at 24 points and 5 assists per night. I think what I'm looking at here is because the game is at Marquette here in Milwaukee, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull an upset. Probably won't be an upset. Probably it's more of a money line pick. Go ahead and give me Marquette to get the win versus Purdue. Second matchup, Illinois versus Alabama. Now, obviously, Alabama just suffered their first loss over the weekend. I do believe that was on Friday night in losing that game to Purdue. So it'll be an interesting spot here for this team going against a Brad Underwood team that's really hasn't been challenged yet. Beat Oakland by 12, beat SIU Edwards by 30, beat Eastern Illinois by 50. I expect Alabama here to be in a bad mood here. The game should be a good one. Remember, this is going to be in Birmingham, so I'm going to go ahead and take Alabama. So my 2 college plays here really quick. I'm taking the 2 home teams, Marquette on the money line, and I'll take Alabama minus a point. It should not be a big spread in that game on Wednesday night. Speaking of college basketball, do you remember last year? Do you remember we were talking about DJ Burns and how he was such a joy to watch? Well, folks, we got DJ Jr., but he's a little bit of a different player. And that's Marcus Johnson out of Bowling Green. I got caught watching him play last week versus Michigan State. And, he obviously put up a big performance with 25 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. And it got me looking up because, you got to remember that DJ Burns was a highly recruited player out of high school, right? And I was like, who is this Marcus Johnson? I've never heard of him. Well, Marcus Johnson, folks, is doing this coming from the Division II ranks. And I think that's been the impressive thing, I would say, about Marcus is that, he came from Bowling Green. He was a Division II All-American. Now, I think people sometimes mistake the fact that D2 isn't good basketball. D2 is good basketball, folks. D3 is good basketball as well. I've seen upsets at the D2 or D3 levels knock off a Division I team. So, to me, what I like about Marcus is the way that he can kind of do a lot of different things in regard to his body and using his strength. He's got a really sneaky good fadeaway. And listen, we like guys that don't fit the mold, right? When you look at DJ Burns, when you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like it'd be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I. But I've been so impressed with Marcus Johnson and what he's done so far for Bowling Green at 18.8 points per game. It'll be interesting to see how Bowling Green does the rest of the season. They've definitely caught my attention and what they can do and what he can do. He doesn't have a ton around them, but they gave Michigan State a good little game last week, and it's definitely something where very quickly you saw that this guy can play. A name to look out for, folks, for the next couple of months, Marcus Johnson of Bowling Green. Let's see if he could keep this up. Let's put this way. Coach Young is rooting for you, brother. I absolutely love it. Let's switch to the women's side. When the WNBA had their WNBA lottery last night, remember in the WNBA, there are 12 teams, right? 8 of them make the playoffs. 4 did not. Now, there should be 13 picks in the first round. Remember, with the stuff with the circumventing of the salary cap, remember, folks, the Las Vegas Aces lost their first round pick. So although the Golden State Valkyries come in to this year. There's only 12 spots in the first round. The Valkyries, by being an expansion team, gets the first slot out of the expansion, so they hold the number 5 pick. The Mystics hold number 4. Chicago holds number 3. The Sparks, who had the favorites to win, hold number 2. And the Dallas Wings hold number 1. Remember also, Washington has the number 6 pick because they made a trade with the Atlanta Dream, so they have the 6th pick, and then the New York Liberty have pick number 7. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to give you guys my top 5 for the WNBA draft based off of right now. Number 5, Sedona Prince. Obviously, people know my relationship and knowing and being friends with Mark Campbell and Xavi Lopez for a long time. Sedona Prince went up and put up 31-16 last night versus NC State. Sedona Prince was an absolute stud coming out of high school in Oregon, has found her way in Xavi Lopez and, more importantly, Mark Campbell's offense here. And Sedona Prince has been absolutely fantastic. I think this is a big that's really can score in a lot of different ways. It's 6'5", 6'6", has an outside touch, has the ability to score a lot of different ways in a post in a variety of moves. She is the main reason why TCU has now gotten up to number 19 in the country, a team that we said was going to be a surprise team in college basketball. Sedona Prince, number 5 in my regards into the WNBA draft as of right now. Number 4, AZ Fudd out of UConn going to the Washington Mystics. AZ is a dynamic scorer. Now remember, she was Gatorade Player of the Year in high school, I do believe 2 years in a row. But she also has dealt with ACL tear problems. I think she's had, if I'm not mistaken, 2 of them in her career. One in high school, one in college. She's back now at UConn, and I think that she is that scoring guard that they need to go put at the Washington Mystics to play alongside of Aaliyah Edwards, her college teammate from UConn. I think AZ would fit in with that culture. You got to remember, Mike Thibault is out as GM. His son is out as the head coach. So AZ Fudd, good little bookend to go with Aaliyah Edwards from UConn, going number 4 to the Washington Mystics. Number 3, Olivia Miles. This is simply put, Chicago has Cardoso, they have Reese, they have Kennedy Carter. They need a point guard. And this is why it was so crazy to me that they traded Marina Mabry. Well, if you could turn around, you can get Olivia Miles, another Jersey kid. Now you're cooking with something. Olivia Miles, Blair High School, dynamic scorer. Remember, she missed last year because of knee injury. Part of that point guard backcourt at obviously at Notre Dame. Olivia Miles is a dynamic scoring, but a really sharp passing point guard. They can play with pace, play in half court, play in a pick and roll. And I would love to see that high-low. If we can get Angel Reese's jump shot a little bit better, I'd like to see that little high-low with Angel Reese and Cardoso, with Olivia Miles coming off of it, Kennedy Carter spacing the floor. I like Olivia Miles. She may not be the 3rd best player in the draft, but she fits exactly what they need because AZ Fudd plays the same position as Kennedy Carter, and you're not taking Sedona Prince when you have Cardoso and Reese. So Olivia Miles, number 3 to the Chicago Sky. Number 2, Kiki Iriafen. I've gone back and forth with this. The Sparks were so tremendously disappointed because they wanted the number 1 pick. This is where this gets tricky. And I'm gonna put Iriafen and Paige Bueckers together at 1 and 2. There are 3 people that you need to watch out for in regard to the next couple of months, in regard to if Paige goes 1 or Iriafen goes 1. Simply put, if you are the Dallas Wings at number 1, you take Paige Bueckers. I don't know if Paige and Arike Awumbawale can play together. I think Paige needs the ball in regards to her be able to create for others. And I don't know if that backcourt fits, right? But what could fit for Dallas at number 1 is if they did go with Iriafen. Because of the fact of Iriafen, now you're looking at Satu Sabali, who's rumored to be leaving in free agency because she's an unrestricted free agent. Heads up, look out maybe Indiana, maybe Leah Balson at the 5 and put her at the 4. Maybe she goes to the Liberty. I know then people think I'm crazy, but remember, she's from New York City. And she played with, obviously, she's close with Sabrina Ionescu. But the fact of Satu Sabally, and you have to do better than Kiera McCowan is getting up there in age. I think Aureiamma actually fits better with Dallas than she does with the Sparks. Which then leads me to, if it goes status quo and Aureiamma goes 2, then you got to think now that Darica Hamby gets moved. Because you can't have Darica Hamby, Cameron Brink, and Kiki Aureiamma on the same team. Remember, Aureiamma and Brink played together at Stanford. So if you're taking Aureiamma at 2, that means that you probably have to remove Darica Hamby because you're not moving Cameron Brink. The easiest solution is this. LA trades up to the 1 spot to get Paige Bueckers, put Paige Bueckers with obviously Cameron Brink and Darica Hamby, and then you can slide Aureiamma to that center spot to play, if you keep Satu Sabally or Tierra Kaminosh, you can play the 4 and have them play with Enrique. That's what makes the most sense. I just don't know if it's going to happen. And as a good friend told me today, I don't know if Dallas's GM, who's Kurt Miller, the former coach of both the Connecticut Sun and the Los Angeles Sparks, I don't know if he can pass on Paige Bueckers because Paige is such a big name. Speaking of Paige Bueckers, last thing on the podcast, Geno Aureiamma, the GOAT of women's college basketball, and you could argue maybe the GOAT of college basketball, is going for history on Wednesday night when they take on my good friend Stephanie Gately and FDU. Geno Aureiamma, when he wins on Wednesday night, will be the winningest coach in Division I history, men's or women's. And let's be honest, what Geno has done, started with that team with Jen Rosati and Rebecca Logan that went undefeated. He kind of took the mantle from Pat Summitt and he ran with it. Now, he did it while Pat was there too, but he really ran with it, winning, I do believe, 11 national titles at UConn and developing some of the best players in the history of the game. Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, Tina Charles, Maya Moore, Paige Bueckers, Aaliyah Edwards, Rebecca Lobo, Jen Rosati. You know, she didn't have the great career because of the knees, but Shea Ralph has become a great coach over down there at Vanderbilt. So even his coaching tree. Mercer Mosley worked for him and now is doing a great job. I know Mercer really well, doing a great job at Wisconsin. What this man has done from college basketball on the women's side is he has taken it and he's blown it to the roof. And now the next crop of people have taken it to another stratosphere, led by what Caitlin Clark did the last couple of years in the NCAA tournament, right? What Dawn Staley has done, obviously, at South Carolina. This man is to be celebrated for his accomplishments. Now, I've heard from people. I know Geno ain't easy to play for. And God damn it, if you're going to put the greatest women's basketball coach of all time is Geno Aureiamma, then the greatest women's assistant basketball coach of all time needs to be Chris Daly. Because Chris Daly, as anybody knows, has been around Geno since day one. She's been the absolute best, and she does a great job with Geno. Congratulations to Geno Aureiamma in advance for when he will break the NCAA record for Division I wins, men's or women, when they beat Fairleigh Dickinson on Wednesday night. This has been Betting Above the Rim podcast number 97 on November 18th. For all things sports gambling, download that Sports Grid app, pregame, in-game, postgame, props, predictions, and more from the very best in the sports gambling industry. Next podcast we'll shoot on Wednesday. We'll look into the weekend games in the NBA Cup, and we'll preview Feast Week, which means here come the college tournaments. And you know what that means? The Maui Invitational, the battle for Atlantis. Oh, it's going to be great basketball next week in college basketball. For my producer, Matty George, Vinny, who always does a great job with the graphics. Thank you for listening, folks. And always remember, it's smarter to be on Sports Grid. Good night. I think that 8:32 slot is the perfect slot for me every Tuesday night. I think that's the way we should just do it. All right, and then I could listen. I could do one segment, or you keep me for the rest of the half hour. Talk to Sharapan, talk to Wetzel, see what you want. Let me know, but I'll be ready. All right, my man. All right, sounds good, brother. We'll talk. Yep. See ya. Bye.